Hey there, I'm Shine Kelly. I'm coming from Vancouver, BC, and I'm excited to share this idea. It's about climate change and how to shift the perspective from focusing on this huge issue that feels big and has many moving parts to seeing it from a perspective of maybe myself or yourself, and what's the steps that I go through, that you go through, in order to change a habit or a pattern that might not be serving us, but is also important to find, to either use it or to have a solution that can take over, because it's important, just like it's important for people to keep driving their cars and to keep using oil for now, until something better comes along. And so I just wanted to share this perspective of how to shift our thinking from this sort of global, big picture, huge issue that has many moving parts and all of these variables to just, okay, what does it take for one person to shift a pattern or a habit that they want to shift? Or perhaps from this perspective, what does it take for someone to shift a pattern that they don't necessarily see the need to shift, and what are the steps to take with that? So I'll give an example from my life. And yeah, I hope that this can support some new, fresh ideas, and I'm sure that many people are already on it. But I just wanted to share this perspective in case it was valuable for someone. It's just more fun for me. So in my life, I had a pattern once where I really enjoy eating a certain food and having that be kind of a staple in my diet for a little while, and it makes sense biologically because your body adapts to eat a certain food and it can do it more efficiently. So you sort of crave that food the more you eat it, because your body's efficient at digesting it, and so it's a healthy thing to do. And it seemed to happen kind of, for about a month at a time. I would have a similar food be a staple in my diet. And so for a while, at one point, I was eating a lot of yogurt and berries, and would have this sort of meal every day of yogurt and berries, and just loved it. It was tasty, it was delicious, and but I was getting a lot of phlegm. And so my roommate, who I didn't see a correlation because I had never thought about dairy allergies or anything like that. I had always just eaten whatever and thought, oh, I guess I just have phlegm. And so I had all this phlegm coming up, and my roommate, who's a nutritionist, said, "Hey, I think there might be a correlation between all this yogurt and all this phlegm. Like let's take the yogurt out for a bit and see how that feels." And so for me, I didn't know that there was a shift that needed to be made. I was just doing what felt right and doing what was available and felt good. And so I had someone else point out, oh, this might not be the best idea. There's this waste product, or this, unhealthy result that's coming from this, so maybe you should shift it. So once that awareness came to me, I was like, oh, okay, I do want to shift maybe and stop eating so much yogurt. And so I went. I think the next step was that I was feeling like, oh, I really want to stop eating yogurt, but then there was almost this energy of, oh, but I really want it, and oh man, and now I can't have it. I kind of fought with it for a little while of like, but I still like it. It's still really good. And it was like the more energy that I was giving this idea of trying to stop it, the harder it was to let go of it, because again, there's this, I think about 3 days is the time it takes for a substance to leave your body, and for your body to stop craving it, if it's something that you've introduced that your body's getting used to, it will you'll feel that craving. And so I think probably around after about 3 days, when I'd been sort of weaning myself off, I came to this other perspective of it where I thought, you know what? I'm going to trust my intuition. I'm going to trust my instincts, and I'm just going to eat what feels right for my body right now. And I'm not going to give it too much thought in terms of, is this like the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? I'm just going to be intuitive and see what my body wants, and see what feels right. So I went to the grocery store. I kind of tuned my field, my energy, to feeling like, I feel healthy, I feel vibrant, I feel alive, I feel clean, I feel clear. I'm eating food that feels good for me. It feels so healthy, it feels so beautiful. It's natural, it's healthy, it's abundant, it feels good, my body's using it well. It's so nice to feel it like moving through me, and it feels natural, it feels clean, it feels efficient, I feel light, I feel energetic, I feel full, I feel healthy. So all those things, and I would just get into that zone of how do I want to feel with my relationship with food and my body. And from that point, I would just buy foods intuitively and sort of hold that vision or that idea in my head. It was more of a feeling, and and then just pick foods that felt like that felt in resonance with that. And when I did that, I would eat a lot of fruit, some veggies, um, meat maybe once a week, and for the first few days, I actually had a little bit of yogurt, and I would just eat a little bit, and it was tasty, it was fun. But after a few days, I actually stopped craving. I stopped wanting yogurt intuitively. It just naturally happened. It was the easiest thing ever. I just stopped wanting it, and I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? It's like I sort of allowed myself to just wean myself off of it a little bit at a time, and then I just stopped craving it because it obviously wasn't good for me. And now, whenever I eat any dairy product whatsoever, I get phlegm, and so I just avoid it now. I don't do it at all. I just understand it makes sense. But for a long time, for my whole life, I was eating dairy and having phlegm, and I just thought I just had phlegm. That was just what happened. So, in that scenario, it's similar to a lot of people who might not be aware that maybe that there is an effect of that emission. And I've heard lots of different opinions of this, that some people say that it is like scientific for sure that there's something happening, and some people say that there's been these cycles forever, and how are we to know that for sure that we're the ones who cause this and it's not just part of a natural cycle? I'm not a scientist, I don't really know, but I do know that having more awesome, sustainable, clean energy is probably a good thing, and that either way it makes sense to sort of shift our perspective on how we use energy, and especially if there's fighting and a lack mentality around oil, if we can find some sort of beautiful alternative like sunlight or something else that makes sense, then that's a beautiful thing. So I haven't done the research, and I don't have a firm opinion either way if what the best thing to do, but I do definitely want a more clean environment. No one likes breathing smog and smoke, and it just makes sense. So so in the scenario that I was living in, the first step was that someone made me aware of it. So they said, hey, maybe this is causing this, and just a suggestion. And so that's kind of like Al Gore's movie, The Inconvenient Truth. Like, hey, maybe there's a correlation. Maybe these two things used to fit together. And so from that point, then the onus was on me. But in order for me to make that change, I did want to make that change because I thought, oh, this is causing the phlegm. I don't like the phlegm. I want to get rid of it. But it took a certain level of not pushing against. So it wasn't really about stopping it. It wasn't about taking the yogurt out. That didn't actually help. That just made me want to get it more, and it created this sort of resistance, or this like fearful like lack, like, oh, I need it. What if I don't have it? What if it's what I really blah 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 blah, right? So instead of focusing on, hey, everybody, stop driving your cars, stop creating a mess, we could focus on, like, hey, everyone, what is your highest vision for the world? Hey, what do you most want for yourself? What's your most beautiful idea that you can come up with for a future that you want for your kids and your kids' kids? And to focus a lot of our attention on that energy, because once we tune into that, it's like me focusing on what I wanted in my body, how I wanted my body to feel. Once I started to just get really clear about how I want my body to feel, and then I let go of any resistance, any restrictions, anything, and I said, I'm going to eat whatever feels right for my body. I'm just going to take the time to tune it to the frequency, to the vibration of what I want to experience, what I want to create. And that's really sort of the basics of the law of attraction. You achieve a frequency, and then the universe responds with things that match it, and you can actually tune that, fine tune that to a point where you can really in the moment make those shifts. You don't have to wait around so long for things to happen. You can just tune yourself to a frequency and then intuitively feel and pick which things match that, and choose, and just become very clear and very sure of your choices that way. And so allowing people to really find that clarity of what's their vision for the future. Why do they want that? What does it feel like? What would be different in their lives, in their kids' lives, in the world? How does that feel? What's the energy of that? Like, why would it be interesting to have more renewable energy? What would that mean for our economy, for maybe supporting more people and having more freedom and more abundance? Because if there's abundant energy and it's free and it's coming from a place like the sun, and we're supporting beautiful ways of allowing that to happen, maybe there's more time and energy for people to do other things besides working and blah blah blah. So there's all these ideas of how to then support people in finding that place. So again, the step one would be maybe to just state that, yeah, there is something that could be shifted, and here's some reasonable correlations, and what do you think? Do you think that makes sense? And for the people who do think that makes sense, focus on the people that think it makes sense, because in order for a change to happen, there doesn't need to be 100% of the people on the planet on board. There just needs to be actually a small percent before there begins that momentum and the mass consciousness. I think in the 100th monkey theory, I'm not sure what percent it is. Maybe it's 51%. Maybe it's. I've heard also that mass consciousness, in order for a shift to transfer into the mass consciousness, it's a very small number. It's like 2 or 3%. But either way, it's if you're focusing on trying to convince the people who might have resistance to it, that's your time and energy that you're using. Whereas if you focus on the people who don't have resistance to it, who know that that's what they want, but they're not sure how to make that shift, they're not sure how to support that change, then that's maybe a better use of your energy, because then it's streamlined and you're able to focus with them and create those solutions. And the more people that get in alignment with these ideas and these solutions, the easier that they become available to the people who can actually put them into practice and put them into place. Because ideas are just energy, and ideas exist outside of ourselves. I think of it as these bubbles that exist all around us, and based on what we're tuning into and how we're feeling, we attract different ideas. And when, say, we have an idea about a new solar panel, something that could really transform the solar industry, and we have that idea and we focus on it and we think about it, that idea is now a piece of consciousness that exists that other people can tap into, and anyone else with that idea is also having that bubble, and they actually are attracted to each other because they're the same energy. And so those two ideas come together and they form a bigger, stronger energy field of an idea. And then someone who can actually make that a reality will have a strong energy of that idea around them. They'll attract from other people. It'll come to a certain critical mass within that field, and it'll boom, pop, and that person will sort of get a download of all of this knowledge and these ideas of how to actually do this thing, and they're like, wow, what an amazing idea, what an amazing invention. And that makes sense because there's been, I think, certain inventions happened around the same exact time on different parts of the world when there wasn't internet or anything. And so it's that explains that, how information travels and how we can have an impact without physically doing anything, how we can focus on something and give it energy and feed it and build an idea and an intention in our mind, and really focus on the vision and the idea of what we want to create, and as general or as specific as we want, and that can actually support the people who are in that position to actually make something happen with that specific or general thing. And then it's also important to be very clear about what our gift is, what our creative zone is, because, excuse me, if we're not in that that creativity, if we're not in our flow, if we're not in our highest place where we're supposed to be, what feels true for us, what feels right for us, then it's like we're not living up to our highest potential. We're not going to be able to receive those beautiful ideas as easily. We're not going to be sending as much energy. We don't have as much energy to then give to those beautiful ideas. And so it actually, for me, it makes more sense to be really focused on the inner work of what do I really want to do? How am I, what best serves me to feel good and clear? Because from that place, I'm going to attract all ideas that feel really good and clear for myself, but also for humanity. And I can give those ideas attention and energy from there, because when I'm in alignment with who I am and what I want and feeling clear and feeling happy, I have extra energy. I have abundant energy. It's like an unlimited resource that I can tune into, that I can just build and recycle. And it's just like, it's full. And there's a difference between energy drinks and creative energy that comes from being in alignment with something, that comes from filling yourself up rather than trying to fill yourself up with energy supplements or drinks or ideas. So there's something really beautiful that happens when you allow yourself to just fill up naturally and come to that bubbling point where you just have extra energy to give, and then you want it to go somewhere. You want to feed things, you want to move them out into the world, you want to build, you want to create. And so we can actually make a huge difference just by being ourselves, just by being who we are, focusing on what gives us joy. For me, that's sharing these ideas, this wisdom, sharing music that also holds that feeling, that energy of transformation and just being who I am, and love and connection and beauty. So those things, I'm just noticing, those are the things that I do naturally when I'm relaxed, when I have time, when I have excess energy. And I didn't actually start doing either of them until I finished school, and I hurt myself before trying out for hockey, and I had a few months of time just to not do anything because I couldn't play hockey. I wasn't in school. I was just sort of hanging out, and I had to let my ankle heal. And during that time, I really became creative and started to write and play guitar and found that creativity. And from that point, then I started to receive songs and started to write songs. And then from that point, I looked into self-development and self-help and wanted to feel clear that what I really wanted was what I really wanted. So getting to know my intuition, my mind, how it worked, how I made myself think I wanted something and then could make myself think I didn't want it within an hour. And what was my truth? What do I really want? What's my clarity? So learning all of these things, it all really happened once I sort of got out of that, the system of feeling like I needed to do something or follow a certain routine, and when I just allowed myself to have that space. And it's interesting too, because I've heard this TED talk by this young man who's apparently a genius, and he was saying that there's a big difference between learning and basically he was saying that geniuses are not much different than regular people. But the difference is that they learned a lot, but then they also had time when they were just creative. When they weren't learning, they weren't memorizing, they weren't sort of taking in the same information and just repeating it and just gathering knowledge. But they actually had time on their hands to just be still, to just think, to just create. And he said that's what Newton and Einstein had, that Einstein was a patent clerk, and so he had all this time to sort of think about things and allow these ideas to come to him. And Einstein, and then Newton, similar thing, something happened with a sickness, or there was a plague and he couldn't go to school, and so he had time to just sort of allow all of these ideas that he had learned, and then basically allow the information to sort of come through him and to think about things and to create rather than just repeat what had been done already. And so yeah, it's a beautiful life. There's so many potentials, and I want to support people in coming back into their clarity and coming back into who they really are and figuring out what their truth is, what they really want to do, what their purpose is here, and how to feel really clear, how to move through any energies so that they're not acting from a reactionary place, from a fearful place. that they're acting from that place of love, that they're tuning in to that higher purpose, to that connection, to the feeling that they want to create, to their basically their highest potential in every moment, that they're able to tap into that. And that's my intention, is just to tune into that every day as much as possible, to tune into the highest frequency, the biggest potential for my life in every moment. And so tuning into the little details and the big picture, and just focusing on how to feel clear and happy, and move forward from that place. So I know you're doing great, and I hope to see you sometime and connect on the way. I know that was kind of a long, winding road that we just took, but if you're still here, thank you, and love you, and I'll see you soon.